We've all been there. You're dealing with someone whose behavior is driving you up the wall, but when you call them out on it, they don't apologize. Instead, they spin it. They look you in the eye and say their explosive yelling is actually just passion, or that their complete emotional withdrawal is a deep commitment to independence. The truth is, human beings are incredibly bad at self-evaluation. When our egos feel threatened, our brains perform a neat little survival trick. We take our most toxic relational habits, slap a fresh coat of paint on them, and rebrand our glaring red flags as bright green virtues. This graphic points directly at how predictable that self-deception can be. Astrology maps out these specific blind spots, highlighting how each sign relies on a consistent, easily identifiable defense mechanism to avoid taking accountability for their actions. To understand exactly how this works, we have to throw out the standard chronological calendar. Instead, we need to group the 12 signs into 3 distinct behavioral categories based on how they lie to themselves: the avoiders, the controllers, and the reality distorters. We start with the avoiders. When a relationship requires genuine vulnerability, these signs head right for the exit. But to protect their self-image, they dress that retreat up as a noble, philosophical choice. Looking at this text for Sagittarius, the disconnect is obvious. They tell themselves, "I value my freedom." In practice, they deploy the phrase, "I just need space," when things get serious. They call it independence, but it's textbook commitment phobia with a passport. Gemini operates similarly, priding themselves on keeping things exciting. But this profile notes they can't commit to a single version of themselves long enough to be truly known. They call it spontaneity, but it's just avoidance with better PR. This Aquarius graphic illustrates the same underlying pattern. They claim they just think for themselves. In action, they disappear emotionally the second intimacy builds. They pass off completely unexamined detachment as fierce individuality. And then there's Libra, who claims the title of the ultimate peacekeeper. But checking their actual track record here, they refuse to pick a side and stick with it. They sacrifice their own actual opinions entirely just to dodge a difficult conversation. For this entire group, true emotional intimacy triggers a flight response. High-minded ideals about freedom and harmony are just the shields they use to keep people at a safe, unthreatening distance. The next category we examine is the controllers. These signs exert immense pressure and rigid demands on their partners, but they convince themselves they are simply maintaining high standards or expressing deep devotion. Take Aries. They think they're passionate fighters for what they believe in, but as the summary highlights, they pick fights over trivial things because they confuse winning an argument with actually being right. Virgo weaponizes a similar tactic. They believe they are holding people accountable. What they actually do, according to this text, is criticize everything under the banner of just being honest. It is a deep need for control, perfectly disguised as concern. This Capricorn breakdown reveals a highly structured defense. They call themselves focused, but they make partners feel like they are being evaluated on performance metrics. That is severe emotional unavailability, neatly packaged into a 5-year plan. Scorpio defends their intensity by claiming they love deeply. Look at the reality outlined in this profile. They constantly test people and punish them silently upon failure. It is direct control maintained through emotional withdrawal. Across the board, the controllers struggle to handle an equal, vulnerable partnership. They prioritize maintaining a power dynamic, using words like care and standards to justify calling all the shots. Finally, we move to our last group, the reality distorters. To protect their egos, these signs will bend the facts of their relationships entirely, insisting that their manufactured fantasies are actually profound virtues. This Leo graphic gets right to the core of their distortion. They claim they are confident and know their worth. Read the fine print, though. It is an absolute inability to let anyone else shine for more than 5 minutes. Cancer relies on a quieter, more insidious distortion. They genuinely believe they care deeply. Instead, as noted here, they use guilt as a love language. Saying, "I would never do that to you," constantly is emotional manipulation, even if subconscious. Here, Taurus reframes their complete refusal to change. They pride themselves on loyalty. The truth is, they stay in relationships way past their expiration date. They dress up sheer, immovable stubbornness as commitment, and this Pisces text shows a dangerous distortion.
They believe they see the good in everyone. In reality, they stay attached to a fantasy version of a person long after facts prove otherwise. It's deep denial wearing a pretty filter. The reality distorters are ultimately at war with the facts on the ground. A genuine connection requires seeing things exactly as they are, but they strongly prefer the comfort of a self-serving narrative. When you strip away the astrological labels, the underlying truth becomes incredibly clear. The traits we are quickest to brag about, our fierce independence, our high standards, our unwavering loyalty, are often the perfect camouflage for our worst relational habits. The next time you find yourself repeating your favorite catchphrase to justify how you handled a conflict, take a hard look in the mirror. Ask yourself if you are actually standing on your principles, or if you are just waving a giant red flag. To uncover more blind spots and dive deeper into the behavioral psychology behind the signs, be sure to follow Zodiac Reads.